Hi, folks, we're going to call this meeting to order. It's a work session of Common Council. It's 4:35 p.m. As typical, we have a fairly loose agenda for this meeting, but just a note for the record, departmental reports have been provided to council, as well as the agenda for tonight's meeting, tonight's regular meeting. This is an opportunity for council to ask questions about those reports as well as ask questions about items on the agenda. So I will turn it over to any member of the common council. Also just to note that Councilor Avery is absent, he's absent, and it's communicated as such.
Do we want to start with the agenda items, or Jeff, did you want to start in particular order, or?
No,
Or any other counselor, have any?
Well, I thought I heard you, like, getting ready to talk, that's what it was. So, I thought you were getting ready to talk.
trying to clear my throat so I can.
Counselor, come on, please.
This has nothing to do with the agenda item. I just had 2 or 3 people ask me about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if this falls under MLD. I don't know if this falls under, Matt, I don't know what this falls under, but the crossing light that's on, Ruger and Broad, right at that light is not functioning.
The crosswalk
The
signal.
one, yeah, you push the button
Yeah.
across,
Yeah.
and the button is like pushed in, jammed right in.
Oh, gotcha. All right, we'll make a note.
2 people have, yeah, they said, so. Not an agenda item,
No,
but nonetheless
appreciate it.
important.
Reports, pretty standard departmental reports. Parking violations, obviously, a bunch of PD reports, and other reports for the month.
I have some police department questions.
Pardon? None.
So, based on the conversation we had, the last council meeting, Warren Police Department gave its reports, and I had some questions about the body worn cameras. Do you have any update for us about?
Sorry, Councilor Gibbs, yes, we do, by the way. This is also, sorry, this is added to the.
Thank you.
This is added to the,
Good timing.
to the folder. We did print it out because I know some folks do require, or ask that it get printed out.
I'm sorry, I'm old.
Was this in the folder last night?
It was not, sorry, it was not in the folder. There was some information that I was continuing to gather until just recently, so I added it, we just recently added it. But, the memo should outline the historical timeline, leading up to today, questions that Councilor Gibbs that you asked at that meeting, and then also email chains on costs, and equipment information for the body cameras. One thing to note is that the body camera project is incorporated not only just the body worn cameras, but the motor vehicle recording devices integrated into the body cameras, as well as license plate readers that are all packaged into the same project. So the cost associated to all of these are all 3 of those projects together.
Could you give us an overview? Because this is new for us, so would you be able to give us an overview?
I can give you what we explained, sure. You want an overview from when it first started?
No, I mean the documents. I mean, like I said, these are
So the-
not things that we had last night.
So the purchase of them started before I was involved. Started back in February 2022, when we first, I haven't had a whole lot of time to review this, I just got it not too long ago also, put it to this morning. We looked at the body worn cameras and talked about implementing them. And in 2023, the state put out this application for money to assist with body worn cameras. Year after that. So we submitted for it and got awarded a grant for $100,000, which went statewide, I think almost every police department got it. So the department started looking at different types of cameras, went to the different companies, what we thought was gonna work for us, and what wasn't. Some were way too expensive for us to afford, couldn't afford. So we ended up settling down on two different, they were both Motorola's, but through Vericom and direct from Motorola. We ended up going directly to Motorola, because it was a little bit easier and it combined with our vehicle cameras. We needed to upgrade. They were getting old. So we thought it would be a good opportunity to upgrade our vehicle cameras along with implementing body worn cameras. So we did. Looked at the whole project together, thought we could combine everything together as a bundle, which Motorola ended up doing for us. The end price was, we put around 190,000, which we put the 100,000 towards it. And it explains how it's all broken down in the Motorola budgetary. And it on the back. Through implementation, started getting the stuff done, getting the cameras in, the carriers in. I had been assigned to Lieutenant Chief at that time, and I believe it was in December that I put Lieutenant Trombley in charge of the implementation, which he took on, and so he made his way through that with Motorola, getting policy done, and here we are today with having implemented hopefully the next couple months.
Is the policy in here?
Policy is not in here.
Okay.
The policy has been completed and submitted to the union, and the union approved, and then it'll come back yet.
There's an in-car video system here, is that?
That's part of the bundle.
Okay.
And there were 7 that we included we tried to include the whole bundle.
Okay, so that's video in the car?
Yes, it's a car camera.
Okay.
They upgraded to a higher resolution, better system.
That's existing, again, that's existing technology that's already in our cars, but it's an upgrade. It's an upgrade, yes.
Okay.
And with that upgrade comes the integration with the body worn camera as well. So the in-car camera will integrate with the body worn camera remind me again, when lights and sirens go on, that's
When
when.
the lights turn on in the car.
Yep.
It turns on with both cameras. And the camera is the microphone for the car.
Have you developed any of the wording around how the footage gets released to the public?
So that's gonna be the FOIA request,
Right.
FOIA request.
Okay.
The FOIA request, I'll go through the city clerk.
Okay.
So there's gonna be some redaction that would have to be done through that before it's released to the public.
Okay.
We have not done that yet.
I was just wondering, because a lot of police departments, they have their own method of release, and I didn't know if that was going to be something that you guys do too, or?
Ours is by a second party, which is our FOIAs. That was taken over by the city clerk 2 years ago.
Okay.
So the city clerk, handles the FOIL request from the police department as well as just citywide in general?
Yes.
Yeah, the city clerk is designated the city's FOIL officer. All FOIL requests that do go through any department will come through the city clerk's office, and all that information is gathered appropriately.
Just procedural question, so if there's something confidential in an email or, document or something that can't be shared with the public, how does that get handed to the city clerk's office?
she looks at the FOIL.
Uh-huh.
She sends a FOIL to a records clerk. The records clerk will list certain things that can and
I
can't
just
be,
wondered.
and then it comes back for review, things that can be redacted.
So in the case of video, is the redaction occur with the city clerk's office or?
So it's a different program. We haven't implemented that, we don't have the program for it yet, so we have to get together with the city clerk and decide whether that's gonna be,
I see, okay.
it's gonna be with us or with her.
I see.
I hadn't even thought of that. He'll be foil, and so be having to handle that as well.
Could be certain things that can't be seen on video and things that.
A redaction is done by the city clerk in conjunction with the PD or no? That's what
It
you gotta
will
figure out.
be in conjunction with us.
Okay.
That was the team, also.
Okay, so my request would be that when the policy has been approved by the union or whatever feedback from the union, I hope that that will be shared with council.
Okay.
So that we know.
Yeah, at this point, there is back and forth between the development of the policy, review with the union and leaders, PD management, and there's going to be a little bit of a back and forth. There's already been cursory communication and acceptance of the body worn cameras a while back, but again, that does have to fall under some general orders in the police department and agreed upon by the members of the area.
That's all I have.
I had some questions for you about reports and information in the standard reports that you're providing to the council. So I saw that our blotter information has become much more specific than it has in the past.
Okay.
So thank you for that. I wondered if, and if I missed it, please correct me, but are we able to receive a monthly, as part of those monthly reports, the numbers of OD, overdose, and Narcan resuscitation? So probably somewhere between, because I read your reports as well, and I don't see that called out specifically, because that's something that I would like to have information of, the amount of calls for overdose, how many Narcan resuscitations. And I didn't know if between fire department and PD, is there a record kept of the needles collected? Like where the numbers collected at the locations where there are sharps locations?
You want them where we can necessarily generate what we pick up.
Yeah,
You want them where they're picked up and maybe dates and locations.
but monthly,
Totals.
yeah, just totals. Where are the public receptacles for those, besides the city beach?
Right now, there's one at Wilcox,
Wolcott? Oh, yes, I've seen that one.
there's one down at Leon Street.
That bridge? The footbridge?
Over by, it's over by the launch.
Yeah.
Like right when you get off the
Where we
Green
go.
Bridge,
Mhm.
stuff like that.
There is, so we talked with the Alliance, we've had some meetings with them. And they want to put more, they'd like to put a little more over in the south end. One of our officers is working on some locations that they could have. If you would, for some private property. We're gonna get together with the housing and see if they have a location that we could put. But there, it is the Alliance Positive Health that maintains the minutes.
I don't know how council feels about this, but I wondered if, would it be a good idea to have them located in our parks? Not just you're telling me they're mostly focusing on the south end?
No, they want to put more, they don't have it in the south end, they would like some, but the south end.
Where is there a sharps container in the south end of the city?
No, there isn't.
They're getting it, okay.
Yeah,
I wanna make sure it's clear.
That's what they want.
But other parks have issues too, and I wondered if we could have them in all parks.
Good. I mean, if I don't think Alliance would do that, I can approach them and see if that's,
So they are responsible for,
the ones that are out are the ones
Disposal?
that they maintain.
they maintain them.
And
Is there a cost to the city for that, or is it just a?
so it's through the Alliance.
We can confirm that.
I just,
So putting one in the parks.
so that they're
We're
not
not
around.
gonna, the thing is, it's like regardless of not having a sharps container is going to attract people to use it. That's, but I don't know, I'm not an expert at where to put them or why to put them there, so I think it's something that we talk to the Alliance about and figure out what makes the most sense.
I would like to see something like that. Does the rest of the council?
So the
Point-
previous
we're pointing.
the previous batch that we put out, so Public Works put them out for the Alliance. And as I recall, PD at the time, along with the Alliance, identified locations throughout the city where there was a higher incidence of use. And you get two usages, and I'm sure the two, number one, you'll get diabetics or medical needles that show up. And there's certain locations like Wilcox, for instance, there'll be buckets of needles outside of the actual sharps, yeah. But they were identified and given to us because we built basically a base for them so you can anchor them, and actually we just fixed one because the one at Wilcox got smashed. But they seem to be really high volume. Now, I know there is some pushback, but one of the beach, there was some negative feedback about location. And I see Councilor Bond made the face about the parks. That is one of the downsides about the needle boxes. They're very good, but people don't like to look at them in certain locations. So,
Well, certainly not like,
Yeah, it's a
small
perception,
child's
yeah.
playset or something.
exactly,
I
so.
mean, come on.
So
I mean,
I guess
nonsense.
wherever they choose for us, like I said, I'll put them out there. I guess we want to be kind of strategic about what we do with them, and so that our community's not, it's sort of like signs, we're a city of signs, we have too many of them, and they're overwhelm us. And the needle boxes are great, they work good. I definitely, the south end is probably a place to put them. I know last time too, they also talked to our grounds people and conferred with them, but where are we finding sharps? Because not only is the PD, we find a tremendous amount of sharps downtown.
Mhm.
To be honest with you, on Margaret Street, that's where our downtown guy is very diligent about picking them up. But that's where it is. So that's how it happened last time,
So, and there are no collections, there are no sharps in collection for downtown, right? We don't have a sharps container downtown.
No, they talked about putting one up in, Protection Alley at one point, but,
Are there a lot
Didn't
picked
know.
up in that alley?
maybe we get caught there once in a while, but I don't know.
a lot of garbage cans.
Pickup.
Ooh,
Yes,
no,
ooh,
we
yeah.
want them in garbage cans. So I would like to see, maybe some information and, continue the discussion about maybe increasing where we're putting those sharps containers, because employees shouldn't have to worry about picking up garbage and being stuck, and no one should be concerned about walking anywhere and stepping on a needle or seeing them. So I would welcome that kind of discussion and take a closer look at what would be the right plan going forward. I don't know how other councilors feel about that, but.
Absolutely.
Mike is, so kind of goes conversation both ways we're just having. Are any employees in Public Works finding them in bathrooms in our parks and reporting out on that?
I haven't heard of any recently. There's certain key areas. I guess we see so many. A lot of, like I said, the ones that are disturbing to us are ones that are in the garbage cans. Because although the gentlemen who have to do the garbage cans are cognizant of what the areas and cautious of it. We were getting a lot down on the beach and the wooded area on the Heritage Trail at one point in time, but I think that since we've opened that up and cleaned it up a little bit, it's gotten better, but.
Village Beach is another one. Some of our staff, our recreation leader will go down to the parks and do checks, and Village Beach is another hotspot. So somewhere maybe along Terry Gordon Bike Path.
What about the building in Derby Street parking lot? The one that used to be the market?
I haven't had much there. We don't do a lot, we don't have a lot of traffic down there. The parks, surprisingly enough, I mean, we're putting a lot of work in the parks, obviously, we're getting things going. We haven't seen a ton, I haven't had complaints from the guys around the athletic field, so. But some of the parks, not necessarily near the fields, it possibly could, you know, if we could find a place to sneak in with the major parks where it's kind of out of the way.
You don't get called for big numbers, right? You get called for a single here or there. The big numbers that you guys call us, every once in a while, they'll let us know if there's a big pile of them that they're standing. We'll take possession of them, dispose of them.
Do you know what's done to them with the needles that once they're picked up? Do you know?
Do I know what they do? We'll bring them back to the station if they're not in a big bulk. And we dispose them in our needle, our sheriff's containers. But if it's a big bulk, supply, we'll bring one to the hospital. Sometimes they'll take them.
I was surprised because I have a diabetic child, so I have to give him a shot twice a day. And when I called Department of Sanitation to find out how to get rid of them, what do I do? I was surprised that she said all I had to do was put them in like I use coffee containers. And just put them in that, close it up and wrap it up really good, put it in a garbage bag and label it biohazard. And they just put it in the dump. I'm like, well, I thought there was some miraculous magical thing they did with them, but.
No.
Yeah. Kind of disturbing.
Thank you.
Well, Long Lake is
Yeah, Mike's telling
here.
me.
I know Andrew isn't here, but I'm pretty sure, I have some questions about the downtown.
Okay.
Boy, we are sure cutting that pavement up. Is that to run wires between?
So you have a couple things going on there, but the open cut pavement actually will be put back in stamped and dyed concrete. So we ran, and remember the old crosswalks downtown that were actually concrete? Same concept. What they did is they went ahead and paved through late in the fall. They're going and doing the crosswalks. But in some of those crosswalk areas, there is signal conduit that's going underneath it.
Yeah, I saw somewhere narrow, which I
Correct,
assumed
yeah.
was.
But it's not, it's from my understanding, I don't think there shouldn't be any narrow cuts that aren't actual crosswalks. Like I said, you
Yeah,
talk about-
crosswalks. Yeah.
So you have Bridge, you have Brink, and also what you see too, they're putting in pole bases on Broad Street also, and that's, I don't know if they started pouring any of the crosswalks yet. They're doing the pole bases and behind, I think they're starting next Tuesday on sidewalk crosswalks.
Yeah, it seemed like more work than I had expected. I thought there was just a few little odds and ends, but it's,
Yeah, they're gonna have to do half a street, they'll plate it, and it's a 7-day cure time before they can pull it, and they'll pour the other half, so you'll have to run over road plates for a period of time.
And that's for conduit that you're doing?
It's, well, there are some conduits that are still going in, but in those areas where they stock cut the road and pulled the asphalt, you're going back in with a stamped and dyed crosswalk. So it'll be, it gives you a contrast, I guess. It's sort of like the snow storage area where it has the brick pattern. I think it's a herringbone pattern, but it's chosen on those crosswalks.
so do you have any anticipation of when that might be done or?
They're slowly starting on next Tuesday. Really, as soon as weather allows, they get in there. So that's the plan.
Yeah, getting our beautiful spring weather right now.
You want to touch a little bit on the road resurfacing as well, just to get
Yeah,
another update?
real quick, we're just, we're gearing up to go on road resurfacing North Catherine, will be the first street. You probably noticed we had crews out there. We're working catch basins, valve boxes and manholes, alternating sides of the street. We don't have a opening date for the asphalt plant, but as soon as that, we want to be prepared so we can go ahead and get our structures reset. And then the milling procedure probably would take about 2 days, and we're going from boring all the way to Broad. And then paving will be a night operation to try to minimize, inconvenience. So it'll be a little bit noisy for the residents, but again, probably 2.5 days worth of asphalt work once we get going. And then after school gets out, we'll schedule our other major projects like Ruger Street and, South Brewer Street over by DOT and South Acres Drive. And then we'll take a look at how we're performing and pick up some other smaller ones along the way.
When you guys do the, work in front of like Stafford, that's happening now, you send out releases, I get emails, that you send out, thank you for that, for, telling us what's going on. Do you send those to the schools as well?
Typically, we'll go visit them or call them, yeah, but they're in the chain.
Because it's in the morning, it's, having to deal with 5 people and all that construction, and then people being late for work and dropping off their kids, and it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, the road resurfacing program, just so you know, the one that the mayor had asked me to speak about, that we try to make sure that, and that's why we're not going after Ruger Street or until after school's out.
Yeah.
And that way we don't have to deal with that. What you're seeing over by the middle school, that's the Margaret Street contract, then trying to finish that up and get out of the way. So 2 separate projects. We probably, we didn't want to push them off any farther. We want to get them out of the Margaret Street area right away. We're ready to do it. But yeah, for sure. And we'll let them know.
Thanks.
I have one question for you, Mike. I think I know the answer, but, that you mentioned North Catherine Street, it seems like at the stop signs, they develop pretty big ruts in them. Is that from the cars stopping and?
Heavy braking zones, it's ideally, if, depending on the environment, in southern states where you have higher temperatures, concrete intersections are always the best. In this environment, it doesn't work well because it's not that flexible. You can play around with mixes with coarser aggregate and rolling patterns, but a lot of it just depends on the intersection. You have a lot of shoving, particularly coming off of North Catherine right into Broad Street, and it's a tough one. So there's no real easy answer to that. The DOT doesn't have a method that's necessarily solved it 100%. I've actually looked at a couple options. I thought about maybe trying to do a concrete intersection, but it would be very costly and have to transition into the concrete asphalt.
That answered my question. Thanks.
I don't like it either. So.
Yeah, because they do get quite deep in some areas. That's a pretty busy street,
Yes.
and I kind of assumed that, but I wanted to make sure that.
Yeah,
Explain that.
we'll use a coarser grade, coarser aggregate asphalt mix. So instead of using like you see in a playground or a walking path, like a 9mm, we'll do a 12.5 there. Along with compaction method, we'll probably go a little bit heavier, but also have to be careful with city with compaction because we have these buried utilities and some old utilities, you can't really hit the asphalt overly hard. So we're kind of cautious, a lot of times with static roll.
Yeah, I know, I see, like at Cornelia and Oak, Cornelia is not very thick pavement there, but there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
There's a name for that, where they use the oiled stones.
This is macadam paving. Yeah, the old version.
That's the way they did it, I guess. It's not conducive to good paving. Well, thank you very much. I didn't mean to
No,
cut you off on the paving thing, but that was a burning question.
Not a problem.
Moving on to items, there are a couple things before we run out of time. Item 7, 782 will be withdrawn on the floor. We did not have time to withdraw it from the agenda and reprint. That'll be withdrawn from the floor. There were some questions posed by Councilor Gibbs regarding the MOA with the fire union and the city, as well as the fire department staffing analysis that I'll turn over the floor to Councilor Gibbs to ask of the chief, and I see some union members here that can answer these questions as well. Just to give, again, a background, I believe Councilor Gibbs as well as other councilors have been asking for a fire department analysis for quite some time. Certainly since I've been on board here, and I think that, certainly the union in my office has been talking about it for quite some time. Maybe the union kind of got fed up with some delays, understandably, and wanted to get that ball rolling. So part of this conversation is to build a partnership with the union to get a study done, a staffing analysis, and certainly a coverage analysis from our department, much like we did with the police department through DCJS. So I will, turn the floor over to you folks, and you all can have this discussion. Those two items are on the agenda for consideration. Hopefully we get the question answered to the council satisfaction.
Can we get, I don't know how you want to do this. Does the union president and the chief want to come together? Or I'm not sure what's appropriate protocol for this discussion.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm on that. I'll get the fire out.
Oh, I know that's the truth.
So I sent out, Nick, I'm sorry you weren't included on the email because it was directed towards city management. But I had sent out 8 questions that I was hoping would be answered before tonight's meeting. And I didn't receive a response. And yes, as far back as 2019, I asked for a fire department analysis. And I fully support one, but there are a lot of questions I have that are not answered with the documents that are included in the meeting documents. The first question I had was, we don't have a copy of the RFP. Was there an RFP sent out for this analysis?
No, there was not. We did it verbally by contacting companies who were aware of the union had done. We done it ahead of time. Sought out some different proposals. I also sought one out so that we would have 3 to be able to compare against one another and see what was the best option. If the one that they liked actually was the one that I felt was the best also.
So when an RFP is created, what kind of information goes in the RFP so that people responding to it know what they're being asked to do? So, for example, do you define the scope of work? Do you clearly define the objective of the analysis? Do you provide specific components that you would like included in the analysis? Is that usually what goes into an RFP?
Well, it would be, this what we were asking for a standard cover, which follows under a certain criteria.
Standard of cover?
It's called standard of cover. It's what is used for emergency services to analyze your coverages for municipality or your area.
Okay, so when you were determining that, what is it, AP Triton, is that what they're called?
AP Triton.
AP Triton. So when you decided AP Triton was the best company to go with, what were you basing that on? If we didn't send out an RFP and with like I said, an identified, defined scope of work with objective of the analysis with certain criteria you were asking for, then what are you basing the decision on?
I based the decision on what they were going to use, what methodology they were going to use to achieve their standard of cover. And what that is, so one of them that I went with was an FPA, and it was going to use ISL. Those are very cookie cutter. I can tell you what they are right now. And
I'm sorry, this is all term of art, so you gotta
all right,
who knows what
National
that
Fire
means?
Protection
I have no idea
Agency.
what the hell that means.
It's not National Fire Protection Agency and Insurance Standards Office. Do their own, they have a way of rating fire coverage for, emergency coverage for a municipality. They come through and they'll ask you standard questions, they'll do, and a National Fire Protection Agency is one that will tell you that on a single family structure fire, we're supposed to have 17 people within 8 minutes. That's all they do is say, do you meet that? No, okay, that's not helping us. That's not what we want for analysis. We want to go down through and say, is our deployment models correct? Are our staffing models correct? Are our stations where they need to be? And that all goes into the standard of cover. They'll go through topography, population density. There's all different things that they bring into it. It's quite an extensive document. They're usually about 100 pages long when we get done with this. The one that AP Triton is using, the Center for Public Safety Excellence. And when you go through the Center of Public Safety Excellence, they have criteria in their methodology that also brings into affordability to the municipality. And they use common sense. Does this work? And is it something that your municipality can afford? That was something that was important to me because if I go by NFPA and it tells me that I have a fire at a high rise and I need 28 people within 8 minutes, that's unfeasible for a city of our size.
So under standard of cover, affordability is already included in that?
It's included in the methodology that Center for Public Safety Excellence uses.
Okay, so,
It's complex.
no, I'm keeping up.
All right.
It's not too much for my brain, but, when you're saying the affordability is part of the Center for Public Safety Excellence, and you're telling me that standard of cover was really, the focus for AP Triton, is the affordability going to be part of what AP Triton,
Yes.
and that they've been instructed to do that? I mean,
It will when we start having more conversations with them, but when they use Center for Public Safety Excellence, if you go on their website, so it brings into it, it actually speaks to, categorizes into manageable and sensible methods. It speaks to what is acceptable for the community to support before. That's one of their lines in there. And that is,
AP Triton.
AP Triton uses the Community Risk Assessment Standard of Cover from Center for Public Safety Excellence. Center for Public Safety Excellence states that it has to be affordable.
So is the objective of this analysis then to determine the right side of the department, affordability? I mean, what are the other, what are?
Affordability, we would look at locations of stations, make sure that we're there, make sure that our stations are where they need to be, and use these all as a guide for us in the future. This is just a tool for us to use to guide our way in the future to decisions, where we want to go, what we think we can do. And it's going to give us best practices. And make sure that if we aren't on the right path, or if there's a different way that we can do things to get the desired result. We'll see what we can, that's bringing in a third party gives us a different outlook.
Yeah, I'm completely on board with it, but without an RFP and without really understanding how the decision was made, which is something that I had asked for, matrix or method used to determine if this company is the best one to choose from. We're being asked to make a decision about the expenditure without having all the information. And so, as always, the process is something that I like to adhere to. So, why wasn't there any RFP? We're spending $30,000.
Because this was a union-generated project.
Even so, we're spending $30,000 of the city's money. Right, so in order to know that we are getting the best product for the taxpayers' money, so the RFP process should help figure out. So I guess that's what I would like to know, why there was no RFP.
We utilized what we felt was the best. I mean, I went through my criteria that I was looking for, and that I had gone through in the past since 2019. And a major part was the affordability, and was it going to be multifaceted enough, and the process was one that I trusted. It wasn't a retired fire chief from Las Vegas telling me that all he uses is the National Fire Protection Agency and ISO to determine what our staffing level should be. I can do that today. That's not something we wanted to do. We wanted it further in depth. And we went through it. That's the one that came up was AP training. It's the one that I felt going through it. In Williston also, Vermont just had one done by AP training. And you can view that online and you can see what level of analysis that they use. So I also went through there, and the union contacted the fire chief and asked him how the compatibility was and how they were to work with. That's also part of it. That they come here and they will actually meet with us too. So
Will they do a presentation to the council?
I'm not sure. We have to look into that. I don't know if that is covered.
That's part of the process. It's part of the process, and it's also included in the MOA.
So the information's gonna be shared with us, that's what it says in the MOA, but will
Correct.
Triton do a presentation to the council? That's what I'm asking.
I would have to look through and ask.
Yeah, I believe they present a package for us to present to you or report.
Would it be a problem to ask them?
You could absolutely include that, that's not a problem whatsoever.
I would love to get that information firsthand from them as soon as it's available. I think that would, then that way we'd be able to ask them questions about their methodologies and so on, for transparency and, full view of the public. I think that would be incredibly useful. Does the rest of the council feel that way?
I'm doing this.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So one of the last questions I asked is, I think the language in the MOA says, council will consider the analysis and recommendations of the company. What is the expectation on the sides of both parties from this, from both the union side and the city side? So the information will be gathered and it's shared with the council, and is there any kind of expectation with the information? I mean, I think that's something that needs to be clarified as well.
I can tell you, my office will use it as a tool to move forward if we need to make any changes. And also, the council uses it as a tool, I'm sure, if there's things in there that they see as ways that things can change.
Thank you.
Any other questions about reports, items on the agenda? We have a couple department heads here that could field questions about their departments. I know Joe, building inspector's office, has provided some reports for consideration. Any questions about items on the agenda or clarification for items on the agenda before we go to the regular meeting?
Geofences,
Yes.
never heard of that. What are geofences?
I was just gonna say.
I know what I was gonna ask.
Chick-fil-A doing that.
It's a geographical location created through Wi-Fi, RFID, a couple different services, so that when someone enters into that designated location and pulls up an app on their phone, they're provided with some type of offer or it like triggers some type of action. So in this case, what this agreement is seeking is just consent from the city to set up a geofence that wouldn't interact with our own servers or give them access to anything internally. It's to allow for folks to come to an event, and when they come to the event, like, the benefit is that if they open up the app, they get a free coupon to go get a burger. It'd be like the equivalent of going to Green Up on the weekend in Trinity Park and stopping over at someone's table, and they're like, hey, thanks for coming to Green Up, here's a coupon to go get a free burger.
Okay.
So it's all consensual, it's not like you enter it and your phone gets hit with this. You have to have downloaded the app, agreed to the terms, know that this is a thing
Okay.
that you can do.
And it's only that one business?
Yep.
The Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
They don't pay for that? It's just like a thing that they.
No, we haven't determined the price.
They're not paying the city.
No.
That, no, but they pay for their own technology.
Well, yeah.
Yes. The idea is that it's a promotional opportunity, and I guess it's a two-way benefit in that they're promoting their product, but they're also promoting people to show up at our parades or different events and participate, and there's an incentive to get
Oh,
a free burger
wow. I was just curious, I never heard of
or sandwich.
Yeah, not person, right?
Okay, sorry, clearly I don't eat there.
that.
If you don't eat there, you might not know that they don't serve hamburgers.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
Fair enough.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We could ask too.
Maybe I need to get a coupon.
I have a question for Alicia about the zoning meeting, the special meeting we had last week. I had a follow-up question, if it's okay if I ask it here.
Sure.
When I was reflecting on the accessory dwelling units.
Yep.
And the conversation that we had as others, trying to visualize what that would look like in an existing lot that would be big enough to accommodate a standalone building. So not an attachment, but a separate structure inside the lot, which is, I know, one of the possibilities. Is it at all possible for your office in collaboration with the gentleman, Matthew?
Yeah.
Yeah, is it possible for you to provide the council with, like, take a section of a neighborhood that is being under consideration for those and provide us a visual of, this is what it looks like now, and then this is what it would look like if there were accessory dwelling units in eligible lots? Is that too much to ask, or I'm not even sure if it's something you could do?
I can have a discussion with them. So basically what you're asking for would be for them to create a rendering
Yeah,
showing the possible build out if ADUs were included on each lot within a subsection.
within our city,
Yeah,
within our own city,
Right,
like,
right,
this
right.
is what it looks like now.
yeah,
And if there were accessory dwelling units as separate structures, what would that look like?
yeah, I can have a conversation with them and see how difficult it is. At this point in time, so we have presented the idea of allowing accessory dwelling units within the certain zone districts that exist within the city, but we have not yet proposed or discussed the dimensional settings that would apply to standalone accessory dwelling units if they're on a lot. Like, we do have dimensional requirements right now in our code for accessory structures, like a standalone garage that would be accessory to the primary residence, but we haven't codified that for the accessory dwelling units just yet. We have had discussions, but we haven't settled on a final proposal for those.
Oh,
yet.
okay.
So at this point in time, it's a little too soon
Okay.
for that, but if you want kind of thinking it through, if you think of like a 2-car garage, standalone 2-car garage on a lot, and if everybody within the neighborhood potentially added that, it would kind of be like that build out. But again, we don't know what the applied setbacks or height requirements would be, or even the orientation on the lot. But it's a good question, and I can understand the perspective of like, how will this look? How will it feel?
Right, that's where I am right now on the debate in my mind of, accessory dwelling units, in particular the ones that are going to be separate structures from the existing building. So I think in addition on to an existing home and using that as an accessory dwelling unit, that makes sense to me.
It's tucked in.
Right,
See,
because
I'm opposite.
you're the opposite of
I'm
that.
opposite.
I would like to see what that looks like, because if you're living in that area that's zoned for that, and now there are other smaller buildings, you know, in corners of property, which is what I'm assuming it would be a certain setback inside the lot. I would like to be able to visualize that, in particular if we get questions from people about what that looks like in the neighborhood. So that we'd be able to answer that as well.
Yeah, and those are concerns and thoughts that we have incorporated into our discussions. So we're trying to give it as much of a 360 consideration and view as possible.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll discuss it with them and see what we can work towards. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if there's nothing else, we got about 4 more minutes before the regular meeting starts. We'll adjourn this meeting, take a 4-minute break and then come back in another 4 minutes. Yeah. Motion to adjourn. Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Manette, all in favor?
Aye.